you see yourself? All set? Welcome to our March 10th Arts and Craftsmen Guild on the Roycroft Campus meeting. We are really happy to have our program director for the campus, Alan Nowicki, here tonight. He has that label, program director, but he also is responsible for so many more things on campus. He's the one we go to when we're doing the art shows on campus. He arranges for the artists, the setup. So he's in a major way responsible for so much that we do here on campus. I'm going to just go ahead and let him speak for himself. Again, here's our Alan Nowicki.
I guess I have to be close to. So first and foremost, before I get started, I just wanted to announce that the newest Roycrofter just came to this world at 11:17 p.m. Last night. Clara Josephine High, born 7 pounds 7 ounces. And if anybody needs to see the pictures.
Well, yeah, of course we're gonna need to see them.
So I'm sure lots of you would have wanted to know that. Well, thank you for inviting me. So I am the program director here on the campus. I guess I will just kind of introduce myself as far as my background a little bit. Many of you that I know in some capacities. My background is actually in art and art education. In Buffalo State alumni, I have degrees in arts, art education, art history, a master's in art education. I've been teaching for 25, 30 years now at every single grade from pre-K to college. I can tell you which grades I will never teach at again, if you'd really want to know. I still teach art history classes at ECC, just because I just enjoy teaching so much. So I still do that besides from being here. So I taught at both parochial schools, public schools. The last public school I was at, kind of at the last minute, they had some budget crunches. And the first thing that goes, of course, is arts and music, sure. So I found myself out on the streets, but it was okay. I ended up getting a part-time job, which turned into a full-time job at PBS. And I worked for PBS for 6 years. The very first program I worked on at PBS was Frank Light Rights in Buffalo, which was a wonderful program if you've ever seen it. And then the last program I worked on was a program on Albert Hubbard and the Roycrofters. If you've never seen it, it is a wonderful program, if I must say so myself. If you don't have the disc, it's in almost every library in Western New York. Even if you just
How do I do
Google
that?
Albert Hubbard on PBS on your So with that, when I was working on that program, I was asked by the campus to be on an education committee. So I was working actually, while I was at PBS, working here for 2 years as well. And one of the last things that they asked the committee to do was to develop a job description for a program director that they wanted to hire. And ironically, the job description correlated extremely well with my resume. So I handed the job description along in with my resume, and I've been here ever since. So I've been here for, it's going to be 12 years in April. So, and even though they call me the program director, my job description, I only do about 10% of what my job description actually tells me to do. It's that 10% other that seems to take up 90% of my actual job. So I don't know how much you know about the campus and how much we do. There actually is quite a lot going on here, even virtually. So we have a book club, we have a film society that just took over the film society from somebody else, but we celebrated our 25th anniversary in 2020. So that kind of tells you how long that's been going on. We have discussions, our virtual lecture series last year We ended up with people from 22 different states from around the country. So we'll probably keep our virtual, if we can say something good came from the pandemic, that was probably it. We really expanded our audience quite a lot. And I feel like that is continuing to grow. Just this week, I was asked to be a part of an international tour group conference, bringing tour groups in from other countries to the campus, which is very exciting. And this afternoon, I was just asked by the Smithsonian to do a talk for the Smithsonian.
Wow.
I know. We're getting the word out there finally. So we continue with that. Our art shows. So we have been doing 3 art shows every year. The summer art show is usually the last weekend in June. Our fall art show kind of fluctuates between the last weekend in September and the first weekend in October. It kind of depends on how the dates work. And then the winter holiday show is usually the first weekend in December. Open to any kind of art. We just ask that it's handmade in some way. If anybody's interested and has not done the art show before, we do have applications. They are online as well. Many of you have participated. So if you have any questions regarding the art shows, please feel free. We also offer other opportunities for artists for either demonstrations or for selling. So we might have other events that come up throughout the year. In fact, if anyone is interested in either participating or actually just going to the event, April 2nd of this year, so the first Saturday in April, we are doing a brand new event called Savor the Spirits. So I have a variety of wineries, distilleries, meaderies, and cideries coming to the campus to do taste testings. Along with that, if anyone would like to set up a booth, now I don't have many spaces indoors, so it would be outside. So April 2nd can be really, really iffy, but free of charge. I won't ask for any payment. So if you just want to set up and work it while people who have been drinking and might like to purchase things more easily, just saying. Yes.
Is there gonna be like a bigger outdoor tent or anything else outdoors?
Nothing outdoors as of right now. So it'll just kind of be, but the vendors, the alcohol vendors will be in all different buildings throughout the campus. So people will have to walk around the campus to get into the spots. So, and if we have spaces still inside, I'll be happy to give them to the artists too, but I don't know how many spaces.
Will the artists be set up in all these different spaces or one space?
I've asked artists for the first time about 30 seconds ago. So it really kind of depends on what the interest might be and how many people we have that are interested. And if it's 2 people that are interested, I can probably find some indoor spaces for you. If it's 5 to 10, I might have a harder time finding space. Sure. Yes.
What is the outside space? Where is it?
Wherever we decide to put you, or wherever you might like to go.
Because I'm new, so I'm assuming it's between the parking, or is it someplace else?
It's pretty much any place on the grass. Depending on what the weather is going to be like. I mean, if it's still really kind of mushy, we probably will try to find a space in the parking lot. We'll cut off like the first part of this parking lot. And we'll be able to set up booths there.
And this summer, like June,
Yes.
Is that outside also?
The summer and the fall shows are both outside. The winter shows is inside, and because of that, we're limited on space.
So summer and fall, how has it been outside? On the grass here between?
So the summer, well, the fall show is growing too. Right now, we pretty much close off all the parking lots, as well as most of the artists are on what we call the Great Lawn, the grass in front of the print shop.
Okay.
And it's first come, first served, or once you have?
The summer and fall shows are usually, we still, as currently, we still have enough space to fit more people. So that's usually not a problem. And if you're in the guild, you don't have to pay the jury fee. The winter show is somewhat first come, first serve. I take the first people, but I also have to figure out the products that are being made. So if like the first 20 people are all jewelry people, I don't want to have an entire jewelry show. So I want a mix of. Everybody has their own booth. Yes. 10 by 10 is usually the space. Yes. Yes.
Now we need to consider allowing exhibitors of the an option to do the show for just one day. It would include
Yeah, I can. So somebody asked a question if there is the option to just do one day at an art show. Because the security people can only do so much. Any other questions about the art show? Was that?
No, it's cracking my knuckles.
Oh, okay. No, that's okay. Yes.
I'll be here. The Christmas art show is this room, right?
This room in the print shop, and hopefully we can expand it to the chapel as well. So multiple spaces indoors. And some of our spaces that we used to use are starting to fill up with other furniture and that, which is making it more difficult to stick artists in there. But we're doing our best. We have talked about if we wanted to expand it outside and get a big tent and get heaters and that, but that's a much larger expense then. So if we get to that point, we really have to have enough artists to fill up that tent then.
That's $275 for the summer show.
It is $175 per show. There's a $25 jury fee for most artists, but again, the guild that is passed. So it's $175 per show, per 10-foot space, 10 by 10 foot space.
Okay.
If you'd like to pay me $275, that is perfectly up to you. I'd be happy to take the extra $100 for any additional expenses that you might cause.
What's the time? You set up Friday?
So I am here for setup between 12 and 7. So at any time between that time you can set up, or if you want to come early Saturday morning, you can set up Saturday morning. And then the show is 10 to 5, Saturday and Sunday. Any other questions about the shows?
There's a paper application today, but then you have to email pictures of your setup.
So I asked for 3 pictures as well as a picture of your booth, the way your booth is set up as well.
Even if you're a jury member.
Jury member, yeah, I still like to have images of the people I have, make sure that there's not similar people type of art. Hi, puppy.
I have no idea where that keeps popping up. I'm just going to use this for a moment, okay?
So one of the other elements that is coming up on the campus that's brand new. So people that, if you've ever been into Dard Hunter Hall, so that is the large space in the print shop on the 2nd floor. For those who have been in the winter art show before, that's where we have booths up there. So that is in the process of being turned into a new art center. It's one of our former board members who passed away, wanted something to be remembered by and gave us some money to turn that into an art center. So there's going to be brand new air conditioning in there, a variety of new elements, as well as easels and lockers and a variety of things. We have an open house for the Art Center on May 12th. There's going to be a press event in the morning. We don't have a specific time for that yet, but we're guesstimating 10 a.m. The press usually like to come out right after the morning news programs are over with. And then there will be more like a cocktail hour in the evening at 5 o'clock.
Is that open to the public?
It is, yes. And with both of those events, the 10 a.m. and the 5 p.m., we are opening the doors up for artists to be demonstrating in there as well. So with that, you might be interviewed in the morning by the press. We don't know. In the evening, you might be, whatever public is coming through, might see you and your work as well.
Are you gonna email about this?
I will be emailing about this, yes. Just because we're still finalizing all of the details with this. But the Art Center will be open, and there will be a membership if people are interested in joining the Art Center. This is kind of a separate entity from the campus, even though it's on the campus. So they have their own board and their own rules and everything, even though obviously we're going to work very closely with them. So memberships for a year, $25 for a student, $50 for an individual. And there's also $5 day passes. So if we do have people coming in from out of town or that just have to pay $5. A variety of media will be available, not necessarily available to use, but it will be open for this, from watercolors, fiber arts, acrylics, oil paint, as long as it is non-toxic, sculpting, jewelry design, mixed media, printmaking, etc. We hope to get to the point where we do get a kiln as well and be able to do pottery up there, but that's still in the preliminary stages. So this will be open for use as kind of, if you are a member, you can go up there and use it as a studio space. You can use it, we will have galleries up there as well. So if somebody wants to do a show up there, they can do a show. They can rent the space either for a gallery show or rent the space if they want to teach a class on their own. So there'll be a variety of options for you at this Art Center. And like I said, I will be sending this out in an email with all of the information. We also had talked about if anybody would like to donate an artwork that will be on display up in the center for approximately the first 6 months. You can put a price on there as far as if you'd like to sell it, you can, but it's really just to kind of get some art in the space while it's still kind of, you know, getting going, if you will.
We have a question.
Question, I love questions.
What was May 12th?
What is May 12th? So May 12th is the open house for the Art Center.
Okay.
In the morning is the press event at 10 a.m. question mark. And then the open house for the general public's at 5 o'clock in the evening. All on the same day, yes.
Thank
Yes.
How do I get on the Roycroft?
You gotta know somebody.
So after this.
Yeah.
If you are a member,
Yes.
still have to pay for your
Yeah, so I don't know if they figured out all the things. As I tell people, I just work here. I don't know what's going on. So I think they're still figuring out the details as far as how much it's going to cost to rent the space for a gallery. And I believe that it will be obviously cheaper for members as if somebody just comes in. I almost think you have to be a member to rent it for a gallery. So if somebody from outside just wants to have a gallery space, they have to become a member to use the space. And I don't know all of the details as far as, I'm sure they're going to have a calendar on when the dates are opened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess that takes me to the final thing that, yes.
So that is in that whole area. And then for.
Yes.
That space for shows.
We still hope to use it for the Christmas shows, and we'll just move the equipment to the sides or in the back. Yeah. And in fact, this last holiday show, a part of the wall was, I don't know if you went over the part of the wall, and a desk was already kind of being built, so we already kind of had lost that side space, but we still should be able to get as many as we had in this past holiday show up there, which I think was 12 or 15 artists up there.
Another question.
Another question.
How does the new art center affect art classes offered through Roycroft?
Good, a perfect segue. That's just where I was going. So classes. We are trying to build up our instructor base again. We used to run, gosh, the last pre-COVID year, I think I had 67 classes running on the campus, which was great. Of those instructors, many of them have either stopped teaching, moved away, stopped working in art altogether. So trying to build up our instructor base again. If anybody's interested in teaching, just have a conversation with me. I will go through all of the details as far as payment for you, as far as how many students you'd want, how long the class is. I can work with you as far as getting a description together, telling you what has worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past, to try to figure out what the general public might be interested. So as far as the art center and the campus itself, and this will get confusing to us, but the general public probably won't even realize what's happening. So if you run classes directly through me and through the Roycroft, I will help set up the class. We will do all promotion. We will handle all registration. We will take care of all of the backside. All you pretty much have to do is come in, set up your class, teach it, and then clean it up. If you want to rent the space at the Art Center and teach a class, you'll pay a payment for renting the space, and then everything is up to you. So you have to promote it yourself. You have to handle registrations yourself. You have to, do everything for it. So all we will really be doing is offering the space for you to rent. So that's the only difference. For some people who have been teaching for a really long time, it might be like, I already have a database of people, and it really won't be a problem for me to do this, and it might be better for you monetarily. Other people might be like, I don't want to deal with that. All I want to do is teach, which is fine too. And I'd like you to go through me. That'd be great. That's really, but as far as what really each instructor I kind of work with on an individual basis. Some instructors want to be paid just a flat fee, and I'll just throw out some random numbers. I want to be paid $250 to teach a class. Okay. Some people might be like, I want $75 per student that I have. Okay, well then I have to figure out, well, I'll charge $100, so you're getting 75, I'm getting 25. Some people might say, however you want to work it out. Some people, like if the $250, I might be like, okay, I have to register at least 4 people in the class to break even, and anybody above that, then I'll start making a profit. So I know if I only have 3 people registered, I'll probably end up dropping the class just because we won't break even. Yes. That people teach anything. Everything from Yvonne, I was going to say, I'll just go all the time. So Yvonne's done her stained glass, Stacey's done her jewelry, instructors used to did once. We've had coppersmithing, we've had broom making, calligraphy. We do letterpress classes down in the press room, gilding classes. I mean, the only 2 that we really haven't had that people have requested is pottery and woodworking. And it's really just because we don't have the equipment, and we also think the liability is going to be a lot higher to teach both those classes because they're a little bit more dangerous. Do we want to kill them? Why? Do you have one?
I was gifted the cabinet.
How big is it? Is it for pottery? Is it for more for jewelry? Yeah, we're trying to figure out a space in the print shop that we can do the logistics as far as venting and firewalls and all that other stuff that you have to do for a kiln. It's a little bit more difficult than just, let's do a bookbinding class. A little safer, except for a paper cut, that's all you really can do. So I don't know if anybody else has any questions. I can leave some cards up by the front desk if anybody wants my email addresses or that. Feel free. I pretty much live upstairs, so if you're ever looking for me, that's where I probably am. We try to have the campus open for as many opportunities for you guys as artists as we possibly can. And if you haven't talked to Amanda yet in the shop, I'm sure she can, if she ever has space, I'm sure she'd be happy to try to fit you in there too.
What were your favorite grade levels to teach? What was your favorite type of medium to teach?
Grade levels, I could do away with pre-K. I was amazed when I went from kindergarten to pre-K. I didn't think there would be a big difference. There was. I was really surprised. So I like kindergarten through 5th grade is usually pretty good. You know, don't you?
I know.
10th grade starts up pretty good again, and then even college kids, they can get this growing too.
Did you ever teach middle school kids?
I did, and you notice I passed over those grades. Yeah. That's your getting to heaven free card. You teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Yeah. What was my favorite? I don't know.
I mean, have you worked with clay before?
Not a lot. I did it with some of my high school kids. I did it in college, but not a lot. I did marble once. That was crazy. Has anybody ever worked in marble?
Yeah.
It gives you a greater appreciation for like the David. Yes. You're just wailing on seeing little pieces of dust are flying.
Any metal work?
Did some metal work as well. Yeah, I covered everything. There's very few things, even film. I did some film for a while. Lots of digital films, animation, editing, websites.
Back to classes, as far as teaching
Yes.
classes. Say I wanted to work with copy. Would I be responsible for paying for the materials or how would that work?
Oh, good question. So we usually have, you give us a supply list or tell us how much the cost is going to be, and we'll put that into the class, so you'll get reimbursed for those. Good question. Yes.
You ever consider that?
We haven't, except for some of our lecture series, but that's more historical than specific art history. But I mean, it's definitely something that we could do. Are you saying that you'd like to teach something like that, or you'd like to be a part of that type of class? Any specific kinds of art history? Like, are you looking at like arts and crafts, or are you looking like the full gamut from prehistoric to? Okay. I do that on a weekly basis, so I could easily bring it here. So that would be a very easy lift to do. And another thing I thought of too, again, I don't know how much everyone knows about the history of the campus and just the campus in general. I mean, I'd be happy to do a tour of the campus for your group for some meeting or something like that. It probably would be better more in the summertime when it's a little lighter outside and we all have glasses of wine in our hands. But
I was actually going to ask you if you could sort of like gloss over the history of art on the campus, like what was being done here at the beginning, and then how things sort of happened in today, but like short.
right now, or
Well, yeah, just like a little, because there's a lot of people that I don't think are so familiar Just the high points.
the high points. So the main thing Albert Hubbard was interested in was book binding and bookmaking. And he was inspired by William Morris, who's considered the father of the arts and crafts movement. And William Morris believed that books shouldn't just be words on a page, but they should, much of the arts and crafts looks back at medieval times. And the illuminated manuscripts of the monks were works of art. And William Morris was trying to reproduce that on a printing press. Albert Hubbard saw that and said, nobody's doing anything like this back in America. He comes here and starts to try to create these books as works of art. Eventually, he will get into other forms of art, from furniture and woodmaking, coppersmithing, stained glass. They did China painting for a while. They weren't necessarily making the China here. Leather products. And much of this just stemmed from the people that were coming to the campus and seeing some of the things that they were working on, saying, I really like that. Can I buy it? And he started advertising it in his magazines. So his main focus was publishing, but they did a variety of different products. The campus is going to close in 1938, mainly due to the Great Depression. 1970s, a group of local people start to try to bring the Roycroft movement back, and it's kind of been growing ever since. The inn reopens in 1995, and we start working then on this side of the street in 2007. I think the first building on this side was purchased, and we've been slowly starting to, I'm amazed. So I'm going to be here 12 years in April. I'm amazed at how much has changed just in those 12 years. This was a pile of rock. This room that we're sitting in was just rubble. This building had burned down. Yes?
So for 40 years, this was all complete? I mean, I know this was kind of, but the other buildings?
They were sold off and used for a variety of different things. So this building, prior to it burning down, had a law firm in here. I think there was a dentist, or apartments upstairs. The print shop, Cornell Cooperative, bought it in the 1950s. The chapel was actually a church for a short time until the town bought it and used it as their town hall. So all the buildings were used for different things. So yeah.
What is over in the chapel? Is it office space or?
It's the first floor has been somewhat restored to the point where it can be used for meetings. They do wedding ceremonies in there. The upper and lower floors are in very, very poor disrepair, and they just haven't been.
I remember taking the kids in.
And again, for our special wine tour, our campus tour, I just may happen to have a key to that. So. Yes.
What's going on with the court?
I'm sorry, with the
Gallery?
court gallery. So yeah, so upstairs that used to be our gallery space that now has turned into a space more for our museum curators. So we do have a smaller gallery space now over in the copper shop, and that actually seems to be working out a little bit better as far as more people visiting it. And it just seems to be a better space than the larger space up here. It's kind of, except if you are a furniture maker, kind of a little bit too big for the gallery. Any other questions? Yes. Why is that door there? So that was the door to Dart Hunter Hall. That is not originally where it was. So originally, when the Roycrofters were here, that door was actually was an exterior door going into the tower of the print shop. So, so now that we are redoing the art center, we put a more modern door there, and we're going to restore that one and hopefully put it back where it was originally. And it's kind of weird because they actually, when they put it up in the interior, they actually cut some of the top of the door off. They cut some of the bottom door off, and you can see they actually put the door handle on the opposite side. So if anybody knows any woodworkers, and honestly, that's very similar. So the door over here that you come into, that was one of the original doors to this building, one of the few things that didn't burn. And you can see that they've actually, you know, redid that door with some of the lighter wood is the new wood that they added, and the green wood that is the original door. Any other questions? If anybody has any questions, again, I live upstairs, or shoot me an email or whatever. But hopefully we can continue to build things here, especially with the pandemic, hopefully, knock on wood.
Do you prefer phone call or email?
I prefer either in person or email. Phone calls, emails are better just because I never know where I am. And I probably
Could you
get.
give us your email address for me?
Sure. It is ANOWICKI@roycroftcampuscorp.com.
Just plug it, for as busy as this guy is, very accessible. So,
Sometime, eventually.
anytime, yeah, for sure. So,
And even with really weird, bizarre questions. I like sometimes those are the best ones. And just another funny little thing. So we got, very few people know this. I don't know, maybe nobody here knows this. We got an email from somebody just randomly saying, oh, we have what we think is a Roycroft clock. We were wondering if you might like it. I said, oh, we like things like that. So, so we emailed back and forth just to make sure that they were serious, and I talked to some of my connections, and I only know of 2 Roycroft clocks. It wasn't something that they normally did. So they're very, very rare, and they can be very, very expensive. So found out that this person was willing to give it to us. Didn't want any money for it. We talked to a couple antique people just to kind of see what they would estimate. Just from the pictures, they said it looks like it's original. They said they would start at probably $35,000. They said, I know some people that if I called them, I would probably start at $50,000 with them. And they said if it went up to auction, it probably goes somewhere between 75 and 100,000.
And did you know what's the background of people who have to be the names, obviously?
So the background of the
How did they
people,
get it?
so this was in the family. It had been passed down. I think it was, I don't know if it was the father or the grandfather had purchased it in New Jersey in the early 1930s. And it had stayed in the family. The brother who kind of had it had just passed away, and they were cleaning out his house. And we kind of, because we felt bad that it was, you know, that much money, and but we did tell them, yes, we felt like we had to.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, honestly, he had a Stickley clock as well, and we sold the Stickley clock, and we have more than enough money that we don't really need it. And we'd rather have this go to a place that is going to appreciate it.
Oh, my.
In which Kurt said, okay, Ellen, go pick it up. And it was in Watertown.
Oh.
So here I am last Thursday.
Oh, I guess it-
Luckily, this was, you know, 60 cents cheaper gas a week ago. How big is it? It's 6 foot 2 inches tall.
Really? Do we have a picture on our phone?
I do not have a picture on the phone, unfortunately, but
Where is it?
it is in the museum.
Okay.
Nice.
Is it similar to the one at the end, or, well, that was reproduction.
That's fine.
In Asheville, at the Grove Park Inn, that's an original.
That is original. It's not like that. That one was made specifically for, it's actually a really weird clock because it looks like a grandfather clock. And it's tapered down, just like the magazine pedestals that they did. And yeah, the top of the clock is really the clock with just a small little pendulum. It doesn't have weights on it. And the rest of the interior is literally bookshelves. So it has a glass front door that you can open up and put books in. So it's just the top part that's mechanical. It's pretty cool. Right, right.
Has there ever been an antiques roadshow show?
There's never been one here. I know it's one of the things, even when I was at PBS, their WNED was trying to get Antique Roadshow here. But honestly, they had one scheduled in 2020.
Oh.
Yeah, so it never happened. But I do know that I have seen segments where Roycroft stuff has come up on
Yeah,
the show.
yeah, but this would be such a great place to have.
Oh, right,
Yeah, plus go through the museum and show.
right, right.
Maybe if they knew that it's clocked.
Maybe. Nobody knows yet. So we're actually going to do a media piece, but we were waiting for the couple to actually come into town. They were waiting till it warms up a little bit, and then they were going to take a trip out here and see the clock. And so that's one of our new. It's weird things, and that email literally was just in a spam folder. And we were like, oh, I don't know, is this really? And the Smithsonian that I got today, I found that in my spam folder last week. I know. I just would just ignore it for so long because the Nubian prince that was, that needed some money sent his way. It was,
There's a lot of interest in the Roycroft campus. I mean, I'm from Vermont, and I was looking at real estate online. Store, and I kept going. And when I told one of my clients about it, he is an architect. He said, "Oh, you need to check out the Roycroft campus." This is in Vermont, like 500 miles.
yeah, I'm amazed. I mean, there's people 2 streets over who have no idea that we're here. And then I'll just have, I remember the one day I was walking down the Appian Way and I saw somebody just kind of looking up. This was when they were building this building, rebuilding. And I saw her, I said, oh, do you have any questions at all? And she turned and looked and she started speaking this very heavy, thick accent. I'm like, oh, where are you from? She's like, Australia. And I'm like, what brings you here? She's like, it was on my bucket list. I just had to come to the Roycroft. I was like,
Wow, yeah. I purposely came here because I heard really good things about the history of the campus and history of the world. And I saw it to be a show.
Oh, good.
Wonderful.
Well,
I watched it again.
hopefully this will continue to grow,
Oh, yeah.
getting the word out.
It's a treasure. And it has to be cared for. Continue.
And even a lot of people, I just gave a little tour to 2 gentlemen from California Monday morning. They were in town and they're like, this is the only time we're going to be here ever. Is there any way we can get around? I'm like, sure. And I learned about him just through one of our virtual tours, our virtual lectures. And he's like, I had to come out and see you. And everybody who comes here seems to be amazed at what is still here. Yes.
Michelle.
Oh, Michelle.
Let Ellen know that people in Chicago also.
Well, thank you, Michelle. That's all because of you. LOL.
Oh,
For one of our evenings, we could show that video.
Oh.
for our group.
yeah.
That would be a fun meeting with wine. Yeah, we do like a wine and. popcorn night.
I've seen it enough times I could just pretty much tell you it right now. Albert Hubbard, once considered America's first hippie. It's been a few months. Any other questions?
Are you gonna do the history lecture series this year?
We're hoping to do a lecture series. I'm hoping mid-April to mid-May. With the new wine event that's been kind of sucking my time away at that, and somebody went off and had a baby. Yeah, right. And she had it last night. I'm like, so you're going to be back next Monday, right? But I have talked for those who know Robert Rust. He did a talk on Victor Toothaker, who was one of the original Roycroft metalsmiths. He did that talk at the Grove Park Conference this past February. And I asked him if he could do it for us. So he's one of them. I'll probably do a couple of them. But yes, I'm hoping to get that.
One of the things about Hubbard that it was so fascinating is that he had such, he was invested with a large consult company, travels to Europe, there's the arts and crafts movement going on, goes back. He's a tough businessman. But then, just again, the relation between art and business, like the training really downtown and how they developed with the whole art center down there. And,
We got new Larkin soap shirts. Did you see those?
oh,
The original Larkin soap. Yes.
I met a woman at the East Shore Library.
No,
She had, and she was raving about your book club. Is it still going?
Oh yes, book club is still going. Our next book club is in 2 weeks, March 23rd. So it usually meets Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock, right in this room. We have some great discussions. Many of the women, they're like, this is really weird. It's a book club that you guys actually talk about the book. I said, what do you mean? They're like, most of our book clubs, we just get together and drink wine and talk. I'm like, well, you can drink wine here too. They're like, yeah, but you talk about the book. So
Are your books historical? Like, or
all over the place. What I usually do is at the end of the year, I ask the people who come to the book club to give recommendations. From there, we usually put it out to a vote to everybody in the group. We have probably 60 members in the group. Approximately 25 show up on a nightly basis. And then we just, whatever books get the top 6 picks, that's our books for the next year. So they're kind of all over the place. We did a Hubbard book one time. We've done Red Badges of Courage because Stephen Crane was actually a writer for the Roycroft magazine to start with, and they did a big dinner for him right before he kind of made it big with the Red Badge of Courage, so kind of connections with that. We did a book recently on the wife of Frank Baum, the writer of The Wizard of Oz, because we do have Wizard of Oz connections here on the campus. W.W. Denslow, who was an illustrator for Albert Hubbard, also did the illustrations for the first Wizard of Oz. So we have lots of different connections like that.
Wizard of Oz convention. Right?
Wizard of Oz convention here on the campus. We hope. It's been planned for the last 3 years now, so they keep on pushing it back, but that's August. And they're actually bringing some of Denslow's original prints, and we're going to print them on our printing presses, which is kind of
really? You're like one.
Anything else? I can just sit here and talk all I want to.
If one ghost story,
One ghost story. Just one?
like a personal.
Well, I have lots of personal ones.
Well,
Share it here. I want to hear.
It's the best of all. There's so many good ones. I haven't had one in a long time though. So I've had ghost experiences in every single one of the buildings. And when we were reconstructing this building, my office was moving here, and I was like, oh, good, I'll finally be in a building where there's no ghosts. And it was the first week it was open. We had one of the morning TV crews here during their like opening in East Aurora segments or whatever. And I was standing up at the front desk, and they were filming back here, and all of a sudden I heard the woman news anchor start screaming. She comes running up to the front. She's like as white could be. And she's like, do you have ghosts in here? It's like, I didn't think they had ghosts in this building. And they had it on film, these little white orbs in that going through that walked right in front of her while she was filming. She was literally like right here and they were filming over there.
Was she singing with her eyes or was she singing on film?
She was seeing it on film.
Oh, wow. Catch a moment.
The other good one, at least from this building. So we don't do it anymore, but we used to do a yearly magazine called The Fra. That was kind of like the highlights from the year, kind of like an annual report. And we had done one probably 5 years ago now, five or six. And we had finished it, and we were just getting ready to go to the printer. And for those who know, Kitty Turgeon had just passed away. So Kitty was one of the kind of the founders of reviving the Roycroft. And we said, well, we got to stop the presses so we can get something in the magazine for Kitty. So we did a nice little remembrance for her, and we were sending it out to the printer that night. And we were leaving for the night, and we turned off all the lights, we turned off all the power, and we were heading out the door, and all of a sudden the cashier printer tape started going off. That's really weird, especially because there's no power to that machine, and it was printing off, and it just kept on going and going and going and going, and it finally stopped. We took it off, and this cashier's machine that just prints out numbers had printed off the entire Fra of Kitty Turgeon
What?
with pictures and everything. The printer shouldn't even be able to do this.
Do you still have it?
We still have it. Oh yeah,
Where is it?
I can't tell you.
Just see it.
We keep that in our special ghost
We're
folder.
moving it up to whiskey now. Okay. You need to see that.
So that's just 2 stories from this book.
So they have it here in this building.
And I can hear right at the front register.
Last time we had a meeting here, that's the time before, I shut the lights off, ready to walk out. And all of a sudden they come back on.
Oh
I
yeah.
did it again.
Yeah, there's different places that they love. I probably shouldn't tell you this. They love the women's bathroom in here. They love the elevator in here too. They ride the elevator all the time. But the women's bathroom, they're always flushing the toilets or doing the fountain.
Last fall, I took a tour in the print shop and we had an experience where the door closed and the light went on.
Yeah. Yeah, they love doing that.
When I asked about the headstone, but you hadn't gotten there yet.
Oh yeah.
And then you started going there and talking about it, and the door closed and the light went off.
Out of all my stories, there's only been 2 times in my 12 years where I was like, I probably should leave. Like it was just like this really creepy feeling. Where other times they're just playing games. They like to turn off lights and close doors.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like under the morning.
Yeah.
There's one in the locksmith shop. Kept on going.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I like to do those things.
It was locked up.
Anything that shows any like personality, like you think you might know who that was?
Not really. I know there's a little girl in the inn on the 2nd floor. We had another person here once that said that she had seen somebody and she started describing him. And we're like, gosh, that sounds a lot like Alibaba. And we got a book out and showed her a picture and she's like, that's him. That's who I saw. So, but I haven't really specifically seen like anybody where it's like, oh, I know who that is. It's my ghost stories.
You should get ghost hunters.
Oh, we've had people that have asked to pay to stay in the print shop overnight.
Just real quick, it's not ghost related, but when I have my group over here, I have a lot of people that ask me about that era. Do you know, explain?
If I don't know, I make it up. So
Okay, then
that's
give me a good story.
okay. So much of Albert Hubbard and even just the arts and crafts in general is a lot 21st century ideas in many ways. It's about being self-sustainable. So in 1910, Albert brought these 3 large coal burning furnaces to the campus with the idea that he was going to create a power plant to supply heat and electricity for all of his buildings. So he bought those onto the campus. And he started talking to the town about setting this up. Now, electricity was only about 15 or 20 years old at that time. And the town wasn't sure how they felt about just anybody just suddenly creating electricity. So, so they were moving a little bit closer than Albert would have liked. And he said, well, I'm just going to build a building around them to keep them safe. And we can keep on talking about this. And he built the building around the furnaces. And of course, he had the building up and running a good week before the town even realized it. And the reason for that is he hid all the pipes going to the other buildings underground, which is pretty much what we do today. So power plant was running until the 30s, late 30s when the campus closed. We don't know what happened to those furnaces. We assume that they were sold off and melted down as scrap metal to be used for World War II, because that's what was happening to a lot of the things in the buildings. In 1997, the building had a fire in it in which much of the interior space was completely burned. All that was left were the 4 walls and the chimney. In 2002, during one of our snowstorms, 3 of the 4 walls caved in, and all that was left was this wall right here and the chimney. So in 2010, we started to reconstruct the building, and it reopened in 2012. As far as that image, that is the only image we have of those furnaces, and it was actually on a little postcard. And they put it into a computer, they blew it up, they color tinted it, and it's actually printed on wallpaper. And then they wallpapered. And I saw the guy doing it, and he was doing it so fast, and you can barely find a scene. I was amazed at how well he did that.
Why that?
Why that image? Because we wanted to show those furnaces in the space. So one of the things that we did when we were reconstructing the building, we found the original Sanborn map, which was kind of blueprints for the inside. And we actually put that in the floor of the new build. So it kind of gives you an idea what the original space looked like. So back here, there's 3 large round rectangles on the floor. That is actually the footprint of where those 3 furnaces actually sit. So standing here, this is almost the exact place that the photographer took this picture. And that blue barn that's right there, if you look out the window right there, that blue barn is still there.
It's great to see the clothing.
Yeah. In fact, we had somebody come in here one time and she was just like, oh my gosh, that's my grandfather sitting up on top of the building. What's his name? We have so many pictures, but we have so few names of who these people are. So it really was a grandfather.
I heard the farmers in the area brought the stones for the buildings and they were paid like 1 cent a stone.
Well, it's
Here's the wall.
when Albert was building the second building on the campus, the chapel, put an advertisement in the local newspaper and said any farmer who brought him a wagon load of fieldstone, he would give him $1 silver. And since most farmers were trying to get rid of their fieldstones anyways, they're like, great, we can get some money for this. And over the next couple months, Albert gave out between $1,300 and $1,500 silver, but he had enough stone to build the chapel, to build the second print shop, to build the copper shop, and to build the fence that went around the campus. So he got all that material and he got it delivered to him, which is the sheer genius.
The farmer, first farmer, who tells stories, he sold all the muscles. He said $silver. I mean, he picked it up and worked for Bill stuff. He talked about skin.
And I don't know if you notice, like along Main Street right now, the wall is kind of falling apart a little bit. So the story of that, about 15 years ago, DOT redid Main Street, and that the original Roycroft wall was actually on the other side of the sidewalk. And DOT decided that they were going to move it back. So they moved it. So the stone wall that is 100 years old is still doing just fine. The DOT wall that was built 12 years ago is falling apart. Just saying. Just saying. So hopefully they're gonna start working. Exactly. You get what you pay for, I guess, right? As Albert Hubbard said, when you buy quality, you only cry once. Yeah.
There's a picture of him in the print shop.
Yes. Yeah.
But he has a bike that he put a little motor on.
Yeah.
Like, first,
Yeah, they were very big with, Albert was one of the first places that really brought in photographers and thought of photography as an art form, which is why we just have so many photographs of the campus. I know I deal a lot with the Stickley Museum too, and they have like 7 photographs from Stickley, and we have hundreds and hundreds. So they always pick on us, and we're like, we thought photography was pretty cool back then, that's all. But he was very big into automobiles and motorcycles and that too. Roycroft was one of the first places for the auto clubs of the United States to journey to the Roycroft. So there's lots of things. So I think was it Clarence? The Clarence Auto Club was one of the first auto clubs in America, and the Roycroft was one of the first locations that they started going to. And I swear I learned something new almost every week. I just learned that Albert Hubbard was actually drafted for pro baseball by it wasn't the Chicago Red Sox, was it the Red Stockings, I think they were. He was drafted in the 7th round, but didn't go play. But they did have a Roycroft baseball team. 3 of the players did make it to the majors. One made it to the World Series 7 times and won 4 titles. Yeah. A year or 2 ago, I learned that the Roycrofters had their own record label. You can still go and find Roycroft records. Because he would bring musicians to the campus all the time. And after a while, he's like, well, I can start recording these and selling these too. So Roycroft record label. There's none on campus, but I know the Hubbard Museum has a couple. It's crazy, just all the little things that you find. Yeah.
Have you ever gone breaking book yourself of the history?
It is in the reference stages right now. It's pretty much, it'll probably go into 4 sections, but the first section is just done. I'm just doing all the footnotes. And every time I think it's done, I learn something new. COVID was great for that. I got lots done on it. Like, wait, I just have to sit at home and just type on my computer. Anything else? Good questions. Do you have any bad questions? Personal questions that I'm afraid to talk about.
The gallery that you talked about, so they're a different group. Just had a different group from this guild or a different group from
I'm not sure. I'll have
the Christmas show, or you who's gonna be down there?
So it's just a different entity in the sense of this was a family that kind of gave us the money to set up this art center. So they have their own kind of board in that they are kind of running the art center by itself. So it is on the campus. I'm not specifically running it, but we work with it. So it's just kind of like its own kind of non-for-profit entity on the campus. Kind of like the guild is, you guys are your own group, but you work with us. And
Are they artists or
it's really just a family.
it's just?
Yeah, that's kind of a memorial to their dad.
Oh, okay.
So it is the Jerry and Barbara Castilia Art Center. So it's the Castilia family.
This is far more than I really appreciate.
Thank you.
Just wait till I have time. Well, thank you, everyone. And again, anytime you have questions or that.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. See you next time. Okay, so. Bye.